And a good Monday evening. Welcome into Timeout here on TVNB. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, St. John Flames continue to slide. The Midgets put on their best at the LBR over the weekend, and the Thomas Construction Junior B team from St. John really putting on a great showing as the playoffs are just around the corner. All that and a whole lot more is coming up, so don't go far. And a very good Monday evening. Welcome into Timeout here on TVNB. Certainly is nice to have you tuned in as we get the week started. Looks like spring isn't too far away for all you golf fans. Don't put those golf clubs away too far. Looks like the snow is melting, and hopefully spring is just around the corner. Jim Hennessy flying solo for the next 30 minutes. We get some great highlights from the week gone by in sports, especially locally. AAA Midget All-Star Game. The boys were on display at the LBR over the weekend. Bruce McDonald and Barry Johnson had a chance to be down at the LBR on Saturday, and man, oh man, did they put on a great show. We got a great highlight package for you coming up from that, so please stay right there. Also, we'll talk about the St. John Flames, who are not having that great of success as they continue this 13-game homestand. Flames have now lost 5 in a row following a 3-2 loss to the Lowell Lock Monsters on Saturday. Now, since Saturday, January 29th, these are some ugly stats, folks. The Flames have given up 24 goals and only scored 9. That's not the way to win hockey games. Tom Watt's debut behind the Flames bench was unsuccessful, losing Friday against the Phantom 6-4. Former St. John Flame Mark Gregg, did he look sharp out on the ice at Harbor Station? Saturday, of course, like we mentioned, they had a 3-2 setback to the Lowell Lock Monsters. Still with the Lock Monsters, they have now taken over first place in the Atlantic Division as the Flames and Citadels continue to sit idle and just can't seem to get anything together in the month of February. Good news for the Flames, though. Defenseman Darryl Scoville and center Benoit Graton have been reassigned to the farm after stints with the parent club in Calgary. Jean-Sébastien Giguère and Chris Clark were with St. John for the matchup in Lowell over the weekend, but with the NHL All-Star break wrapping up, Grant Fuhr is expected to be on the shelf for the next 30 days. So Jean-Sébastien Giguère is back in Calgary. So not good news for St. John Flames fans who are still trying to find that man between the pipes that can lead them out of the month of February into the month of March and try to get ready for that playoff stretch, because right now they are tied for second with Quebec heading into tomorrow night's matchup against Syracuse. But if they don't get their act together pretty soon, they are going to make the playoffs. There's no fear of that. But they've really got to make a statement here in the month of February with this long homestand and try to pile up the points, because we all know how important home ice advantage can be when the second season gets underway. Still with the Flames, we roll back the tape to last week on Wednesday when Grant Fuhr wrapped up his reconditioning stint here in St. John as the Syracuse Crunch rolled into town. And what a treat it was to see Paul Correa's younger brother, Steve Correa, who of course started the season with the Vancouver Canucks, but has been called down to the farm with Syracuse. Grant Fuhr wrapping up his reconditioning stint, like we mentioned, as they took on the Syracuse Crunch. Here are the highlights from that game last Wednesday night at Harbor Station.
Appearance for the St. John Flames. He's heading back to the National Hockey League. Holden moves it into the right quarter, deep in St. John territory. Savage is after it to the point. There's a shot by Doyle. He scores! Correa down the left wing. Correa moving in, goes around St. Croix. Shot, scores! Steve Correa with another weak goal. Beats through neutral territory into the St. John zone. Komaniski hard to the net. He got hammered by St. Croix. Goes crashing into the crossbar. And play is stopped as the net is dislodged. We've got a fight. Matt Odette and Mike Brown, the penalty minute leaders for both teams. Odette leads with a left that lands. And now Brown comes back, and Odette comes in with a few lefts. And they tie one another up. Odette's jersey has come up over his head, and that gives Brown a bit of an advantage. The linesman trying to intervene and then back out. Now Odette is able to peer through his jersey.
I guess what's probably the most disappointing tonight's game is the fact that the last two practices, which we haven't had time to practice for 2-3 weeks, the last two practices we've worked primarily on defensive play, and obviously we weren't very good at it tonight, but perhaps we're not good enough.
At this point, can you tell me, Grant Fuhr apparently pulled himself after period 2. What did he tell you, and what was your decision, if you can offer that to us?
Well, I wasn't in on the conversation. It was between him and the doctors and the training staff. It was a situation, obviously, where he felt that he couldn't go on anymore. I don't know any more other than that. Don't know how long it's going to be or what exactly the extent of the knee problem was after the second, but it obviously must have been hurting him somewhat for him to pull himself after 2 periods, I would think.
Grant was struggling a bit, and he just experienced a little soreness in his knee, and he felt that it was best to take himself out of the game at that time. And he was scheduled to leave at 6:30 tomorrow for Calgary, regardless of what happened. And so that's the plan. He's going to be on that flight, and he'll get out to Calgary, and our doctors will evaluate him out there.
Does this put a stall on now that the unknown factor is Giguère expected to come back this way?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. As soon as when Grant gets out to Calgary and our doctors look at his situation, then we'll have to decide. But I'm sure that we'll have to hold on with the return of Giguère to the team here until we find out what Grant's status is.
What did you do when you saw him in that report? Was it worrisome? I mean,
well, he never. With a veteran like Grant, you know, he takes himself out of the game. You know, you always figure that he knows his body really well. He's been through this before, and he's doing the right thing.
I think Nick Polano summed it up the best when he said that Grant Fuhr knows his body better than anyone, almost 20 years in the NHL. And the thing I guess you have to put in perspective from my point of view anyway is Grant Fuhr is 37 years old, almost ready to turn 38 in the calendar. And you got to really think, I mean, he had totally reconstructive surgery to replace a knee. He didn't, you know, have a wrap around his knee for a couple of weeks, and you know, he didn't put ice packs on it for a couple of weeks or anything like that. It wasn't a bruise or just a couple of stitches there. He had a total new knee put into his body. And for a man to come back at the age of 37 after the pounding his body's taken over the years, and there's no question, 5-time Stanley Cup winner, won 2 Canada Cups, and he's going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but he's 37 years old, trying to rush his body back and get healed up. The body doesn't heal like it is when he was 21 years old. And even someone who was 21 or 22 or whatever the age might be, coming back from reconstructive knee surgery like that, might have been a little too soon for him to come back. And like we said, all sources indicate that he is going to be on the shelf for at least the next 30 days. So that means Jean-Sébastien Giguère is going to get some well-deserved work in Calgary. But what does that mean for the St. John Flames? That means bad news, because we don't have a #1 goaltender right now in camp. Freddie Brathwaite playing extremely well up in Calgary. No question about it, he owns the #1 job. Giguère has played in 2 games so far, really a game and 2/3 so far in the NHL, and shown that he deserves to be up there. So whether or not we're going to have a goaltender in camp to head down the playoff stretch, we don't know. Now, the rumor mill is floating around. Now, this is total speculation. What I have heard is that the Flames are working to try to bring in former NHL goaltender Jimmy Waite. Tyler Moss's name has been thrown in there as kind of maybe a bargaining tool or some weight for trade. Now, he is still property of Calgary, so whether or not this whole thing will come to fruition, we still do not know. So I guess it's just a wait-and-see factor. Still with the Flames, we have some more news. Former NHL goaltender Scott Bailey has been signed to a professional tryout with St. John. Bailey has posted a 6-5-1 record with a 2.72, I should say, goals against average with the Charlotte Checkers of the East Coast Hockey League. Also, the team has reassigned Joel Irving to Johnstown and released goaltender Frederick Duchesne. You'll remember Duchesne put on a great show against Portland about a week and a half ago when he posted a 2-0 shutout. So Duchesne is on his way back to the East Coast Hockey League. And still with the St. John Flames, how about their head coach, Rick Vaive, looking pretty slick. The old ice at Maple Leaf Gardens over the weekend on Saturday, part of the NHL All-Star Game festivities. Vaive showed that scoring touch that helped him become a household name when he potted 2 goals in the second period. They were against Greg Millen. He looked pretty sharp breaking down the wing there. It looks like Rick might still be able to play. Not in the NHL, but still looks like he could give someone a pretty good go. Rick, congratulations on the 2 goals over the weekend. And we haven't had a chance to talk to Rick yet since he's been back. But the way he was smiling when he was coming off the bench and heading back towards the bench after scoring those 2 goals looked like Rick really enjoyed being back at Maple Leaf Gardens, where, let's face it, he spent the best years of his NHL career, still the only man in Leafs history to score 50 goals and the youngest captain in Leafs history as well. So quite an accomplishment, Rick, from all of us here at Time Out here on TVNB. Nice showing over the weekend, and we wish you and the Flames all the best as you get ready to head down the stretch drive in the month of February and March. Like we said off the top of the show, Bruce McDonald and Barry Johnston were at the LBR on Saturday as the AAA Midget All-Star game was held at the LBR. Great showing there, and a lot of young talent up and coming around the province. We'll give you a chance to take a look at some of that up and coming young talent as Barry Johnston had the call and Bruce McDonald was doing the color.
Red carpet rolled off. Referees out center ice. That's Vince Chan refereeing this game.
And there to take the face-off for the West Division is Hugo Chamberlain and Nick Tate for the South Division. Here's a chance now for the South. There's the first goal. He scored!
And the goal scored by number 11,
Corey Jardine
from the St. John Flames.
That's right, I agree totally. But neck protectors are mandatory.
Oh,
nice
save. Oh, rebound.
Empty net goal, basically.
No chance there.
Adam Sherwood had no chance there at all. He was down and out. And the West tie this game up at 1. Here's a cross-ice pass, a chance for the West, and they capitalize on it. And he scores.
18.
8-10 of the second period. The West has gone ahead by a score of 2-1. Back on the South on a 2-on-1. Here's going to be a partial breakaway. And he makes no mistake. He scores.
Aaron Grant on a beautiful feed there and a nice deke.
A nice deke off the backhand, and he finds the twines, and he ties his game up at 2. And a teammate dumped it into the zone. Took a bad bounce off of the boards, which this rink has been really known for. There's the goal. He scores. That was number 3, Adam Coyne. Here we go, 2-on-1 again. Nice at the goal. That is in. It just crossed the red line.
Boy, I'm telling you.
That makes it 4-2 for the West. There's a shot that's been blocked, and the West go on to win by a score of 4-2. As you see all the West players that they're congratulating one another. And that was, like you said earlier, Bruce, if you were to say they were going to win by a score of 4-2 at the first of this game, we would have never believed it.
I'm here with Peter Hansen of the Central New Brunswick Midget Hockey League. Peter, you're the president of the league. You've been involved with it from day one pretty well. That's 30 years ago. What has happened over the last few years, and what kept you motivated to stay as the president?
Well, we've been in operation 30 years. We're very proud of it. It's the longest established and largest hockey league in Atlantic Canada. The reason I've stayed on long for 30 years, I've had some great people involved with us. We've had former players and coaches that are now involved with our executive, and everybody takes on a responsibility, and when that happens, then it makes my job so much easier.
You've had a lot of great players come through the system here in this province. You've had the likes of Mike Eagles, and he's the name that comes off the top of my head, but you've had a lot of players come through here.
Yes, Mike's still playing with the Washington Capitals. We've had Charlie Bourgeois, Mac Davis, Rolly Melanson, and you go on down the line. A lot of other players have gone on to have good careers at the university level.
How much planning goes into doing something like an all-star game here today?
Oh, a certain amount. We, down like in the game in St. John, Sandra Hashey and Brenda DeForest, they're involved in this area. So we have to get the selections in from the different teams. We have a meeting, we select the players, and then they have to do the organizing it and make sure the news media is aware and all the ins and outs. But those people are the ones that do most of the work.
34 teams in the league, is that correct? 34
teams, and come playoff time, we divide the teams up into A, B, and C caliber, and our championship tournament for the provincial titles is in Bathurst this year in April 7th, 8th, and 9th.
So what should we look forward to? Do they go on to an Atlantic championship afterwards, or is it just a provincial?
No, this is strictly provincial. At the AAA level, and there are 7 teams in the province, they go on to Atlantic, but this is for the provincial titles only.
What have you seen here today, and have you liked it? Have you liked the action? There's been a lot of good hard hitting out there. Nick Tate comes to mind out there. He's been really throwing the body around.
Well, it's certainly back and forth. It's a close hockey game. Over the years, we've had 12 games that have gone into sudden death overtime, and who knows, maybe today we'll have another one.
How many minutes now do they have for the sudden death overtime?
We go with a 10-minute sudden death period. If it still is tied, then we go to a 5-player shootout.
Well, that was certainly some fantastic action down at the LBR as the Midgets put their best skate forward on Saturday, and the crowd that was down there was treated to an excellent hockey game in the All-Star game. And Barry and Bruce, thank you very much for the call. The effort is greatly appreciated. Still more to come. We have got the Thomas Construction Junior B hockey team who are on a bit of a roll themselves. The NHL All-Star game was held over the weekend as well, and dreaming of sunshine. Yes, Honolulu was the site for the NFL Pro Bowl, and we'll review all that coming up right after the break.
This is TVNB, the New Brunswick channel.
In the work.
Happened to the
rings.
There's only one easy step to get the creative juices of the average, everyday backyard grill master flowing. Plunge into Tide's Table Outdoors. Grilled on the edge of the bay, Tuesday or Friday at 6 on TVNB. Follow the athletes, hear the crowd as we highlight the best of New Brunswick sports action on Primetime Sports, an action-packed leader exclusively on TVNB.
That's not offside. What?
And welcome back into the second half of time out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy flying solo for this Monday evening. Certainly hope your week is getting off to a good start. And we should make mention the St. John Flames are in action tomorrow night at Harbor Station as they continue this long homestand in the month of February. Tickets are still available at the Harbor Station box office and at all the regular ticket outlets around the greater metro area. The Syracuse Crunch roll into town, and of course the Flames got crunched by Syracuse last week. 8-2 was the final. Steve Correa, Paul Correa's younger brother, is in the Syracuse lineup. And if you thought Martin St. Louis was small, you haven't seen anything yet. Steve Correa is extremely tiny. I think they register him at about 5'6", but that's got to be with the blades on because this kid is small. But man, can he move, and he has got some slick moves. So if you haven't got tickets yet or you haven't got anything planned for tomorrow evening, make sure to make plans to be there. Puck drops at 7:30. The opening face-off gets underway, I should say, at 7:30, and the pregame festivities as well. The game will probably get rolling around 20 to 8. So if you don't have plans, like we said, make sure you get down and support the St. John Flames. Still with local hockey, St. John Thomas Construction Junior B hockey team, are they on a roll? They've improved their record to 7-2 with back-to-back victories on home ice over the weekend. They beat Charlotte County 7-5 Friday night, and they got by Woodstock 6-3 in a penalty-filled affair Saturday night. How bad was the penalty-filled affair Saturday night? Well, let me tell you, the team had to sit in the bleachers because the penalty box was so full. Woodstock had to actually sit their players in the bleachers because the penalty box was so full. Over 100 minutes in penalties handed out. St. John is now 5-2 since the Christmas break and are sporting a 3-game winning streak. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago, Russell Press, the head coach of St. John's Junior B hockey team, was here in the studio with us, and he said they got off to a slow start. They got off to a brutal start. I mean, let's be honest. And the team struggled a little bit to get on their feet. But now that they've finally got everything that they seem to want it in place, they had a rookie goaltenders. They're feeling their way around the league for the first couple of games, and now they feel a little bit more comfortable. So it's good to see the boys putting something together. The only thing, I had a chance to talk to the head trainer, Bob Allen, before we got rolling with the tape here tonight. And Bob was telling me the only thing they were really disappointed in was the crowd. Saturday night, the Flames were in Lowell, and they only had about 130 people at the LBR, so that's a bit disappointing. Ticket prices are real affordable. Team's on a real good roll. The playoffs are set to get started in a couple of weeks' time, so if you can, head down to the LBR. They've got another doubleheader coming up this weekend, so make sure you get down there and enjoy some great Junior B hockey action. Also, we have to say congratulations to Dana Duncan of Rosse. He was the winner of the team's trip for two to the Daytona 500 coming up on February 19th. Compliments of the Thomas Construction Junior B hockey team. They had been raffling off tickets now for the past couple of months, and I know that we said a couple of weeks ago that Bruce McDonald was going to make the draw here in the studio. Didn't quite work out that way due to scheduling commitments, but that is the winner. Dana Duncan is on his way to Daytona, what they call the Super Bowl of auto racing on February 19th. So Dana, we certainly hope you enjoy that. Still on the local front, Rosse's Mark Fawcett captured first place at the World Cup Giant Slalom Snowboarding Championships in Austria over the weekend. That was Fawcett's first win of the season. So congratulations to Mark. We know that his mom and dad are proud of Rosse, and we wish him all the best as the snowboarding season continues. Flip back over to the NHL, and the All-Star festivities were held in Toronto at the Air Canada Centre. Like we mentioned, Rick Vaive played in the Legends game and had 2 goals on Saturday. And the game on Sunday, what more can you say? It's a scoring festival, and the Bure brothers certainly had a good showing. Pavel and his younger brother playing together, and man, oh man, did they look some sharp. Valerie was just feeding Pavel all afternoon. Pavel finishes up with 4 points on the afternoon, 3 goals, 1 assist, and walks away with the MVP as the World All-Stars beat the North American All-Stars 9-4. And they had a bit of a, I guess they were calling it a town hall meeting Saturday night. Gary Bettman, Brian Burke, it was just a great bag. Union Station, Ron McLean hosted it. They got together and talked about the league and the future of the league in 2004 when the bargaining agreement comes up for debate, whether or not they should put a salary cap into place and what the fate of the Canadian NHL teams holds. And it was a long disputed debate. Brian Burke said you have to look at NHL franchises like businesses, and that's what they are. They generate revenue for the cities they're in. They generate revenue for the country that they play in. So that was his feeling. Glenn Sather was pretty much of the same voice. He felt that we should be considered a business. We generate revenue, we put people to work, and we pay a whole lot of money in taxes. So it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing turns out. Like we said a couple of weeks ago, just because the federal government pulled out and said they won't be offering up the subsidy money, that doesn't mean that this issue is over. Not by a long stretch, so stay tuned. Also in Honolulu, the NFL Pro Bowl was played, and the NFC walloped the AFC. 51-31 was the final. And, of course, you never see too much hitting in that game. Once the Super Bowl's over, the boys are just kind of winding down, and as you can imagine, grateful to be in the sun of Honolulu. Wish we could be there with them. Wish we could have been there with them. Well, we certainly hope you enjoyed the last 30 minutes. We've enjoyed bringing it to you, and we certainly hope you tune in next Monday at 7 o'clock for Time Out here on TVNB. As we leave you, there was a Slovakian team, midget team, touring the province for the past couple of weeks, and they were putting on quite a show. These European players are some talented, and if these kids are any indication of the European talent that is coming over to play in junior and possibly play in the NHL in the near future, look out. These guys are going to be some high-scoring machines. We'll end it with that and ended with saying thank you, and we hope to see you next Monday at 7 o'clock.
Oh, it was a pretty good game. I think we were better.
Physical style of hockey, a little bit different than you're used to? Or?
Oh yeah, we were playing different hockey like them, but it was very difficult because they were stronger. They were playing very hard and strong, and we didn't expect it so much.
Are you enjoying your trip to Canada?
Yeah, it's very exciting. We met a lot of people and new friends, and Canada is a very nice country, I think.
All the people on your team, are they from the same town?
Yeah, we're from the same town.
What's the name?
It's Wola, in the middle of Slovakia.
How do you get on your team? How do the people in your country get onto this team?
It's just in this town we have just one team, so that's the thing we had there.
Do you have different divisions, different leagues? Or?
We're playing Slovak National League Junior. Something are playing Junior League and some midget.
Anybody on the team have aspirations of going to the Olympics or maybe trying to get into the NHL?
Oh, I think everybody on the team is doing his best, and it's his dream, I think.
Okay. Anybody looking to be the next Ziggy Palfrey, or?
Oh, maybe. Why not?
What was it like playing against the Slovakian team?
A learning experience, to say the least. They just skated circles around us, but it's good for everyone, I guess.
Tempers flaring a little bit at the end?
Yeah, I guess. In games like that, sometimes that happens, but it's not what we came for, but we had a good night.
We saw an aspect tonight that we don't normally see at this level. They utilized their defense so strongly on the blue line, the D-to-D passes, the regroups, the breakouts, and unfortunately within maybe our program here we're not using that enough, so it's something that we want to look to. Their individual skill set. We watched them practice this afternoon, and every individual there was at 100% drive, where sometimes we become lackadaisical. I think we take our game for granted, and individuals such as this, I mean, to them, to the Slovaks coming here, this is Mecca of hockey. This is the pinnacle, probably some of their highlights, and they're going to drive as hard as they possibly can.